Hello, my friends. So in this video, we're going to be talking more about end-time prophecy and continuing on what I was talking about in the last video. And we're going to be seeing how Yah knows about how people don't believe in the Bible anymore and don't believe in His Word or even have an inkling of the truth that is to come. And then we're also going to be talking about the destruction of the nation of this nation that is to come. All right, so we're going to start in Second Timothy. Oh, sorry, no. We're going to start in First Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. This is Yahushua talking. Now the Spirit speaketh expressively that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of the devil, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. So some of these lies and hypocrisies that we're seeing in today's time would be one, the evolutionary theory and this alien agenda. Those are the two biggest ones that are going on right now. Because this evolutionary theory is making people think that the earth is billions of years old, when scientists have no way of knowing billions of years. Think about that. You ever stop to think about how long billions of years is? Billions of years. How could anyone know what was going on billions of years ago? That's just absolute nonsense. And the evolutionary theory is completely opposite of the Bible. And who is completely opposite of Yah? The devil. So that is Satan's little lying doctrine right there that he uses to confuse people and confuse the masses, all right? So let's talk about some parallels between the evolutionary theory and the Bible and the Word of Yah. So the evolutionary theory says the Earth and everything known to in the universe took billions of years. But Yah says everything was created in a literal 7 days. Some newer Bibles actually even changed the word and added the gap theory, which would be making the days longer than what they are. Because a lot of people today don't believe that Yah really made everything in a literal 7 days. So they changed, for example, the first day to a day, 1 day, stuff like that. You're taking away the literalness of what Yah is trying to say, that He literally made the heavens on the first day, stuff like that. Okay, and that's called the gap theory, adding in billions of years, millions of years. And we already know Yah is a very literal person, so when He says He made the heavens on the first day, and he rested on the seventh day, He's talking about a literal first day, the very first day of creation. The word "the" is a absolute term. You use it for a literal purpose. When you say the first day, the second day, you're talking about the literal first day of creation, the literal second day, the literal third day, not some day, not a day. You see how you take away the absoluteness of the meaning of Yah when you switch the words like that? Those tiny words really do make a big difference, okay? And also, the evolutionary theory says everything evolved from, if you think about it, everything evolved from a rock. Because what happened? The Big Bang, that nonsense of the Big Bang theory happened, and particles formed and made the Earth, and then the Earth cooled down and it started to rain, and then it rained on these rocks, and that rock became soup, and then the soup came to life and became particles, living organisms. Then these living organisms turned to fish, then they turned to a reptile, then they evolved into mammals, then these mammals evolved into apes, and then these apes evolved into humans. All this nonsense. It's just a whole bunch of nonsense, okay? And if you think about it, scientists try to say that, that dinosaurs evolved into what we are seeing today as birds and stuff like that. They try to say that dinosaurs evolved into birds and things like that. Well, if dinosaurs evolved into the birds, and they try to say humans evolved from apes, why are we still seeing apes today, but we're not seeing dinosaurs around anymore, right? So if apes are supposed to be our ancestor, how come they're still around, alive and well, and dinosaurs we don't see anymore, who supposedly evolved into today's birds and today's reptiles? A whole bunch of nonsense. You see, if you ever think a little bit, you can easily figure out that it's a whole bunch of nonsense. The Great Flood describes and lets you know how everything, how all creation, how so many animals died off. That is the great catastrophe, not some meteorite that hit the earth uh, 100 million years ago and wiped out dinosaurs. Just a whole bunch of nonsense. And the evolutionary theory tries to say that death is necessary, but yet Yah talks about how death is the last enemy that he is going to conquer so that we can live forever and all this stuff. And it's just a whole bunch of nonsense with the evolutionary theory and the whole alien agenda, how aliens supposedly seeded us from a faraway galaxy, but yet no one ever thinks to ask who created these extraterrestrials. If they seeded us, who created them? Because at the end of the day, they die, right? And then they try to say, oh, they have some higher knowledge than us and they've been around forever and all this crap. It's a whole bunch of nonsense. And they try to use extraterrestrials to explain the pyramids and all the great megalithic structures. But in my video, in one of my other videos, I talked about how giants were on the face of the earth, and how the fallen angels came down and brought down this heavenly knowledge, which still allows the Bible to be true in His word, and it also answers the questions of who made those megalithic structures. Because if you're a giant, you need big buildings. And archaeologists find giant bones, the Smithsonian find giant bones, the Vatican, they just have a funny way of wiping away the true history because they have their Darwin evolutionary theory crap that they've been teaching to the whole world as true when they themselves know it's not true. Okay? Yeah, so these extraterrestrials that they're trying to have people believe into, and even the Vatican, they wrote a book called "Should We Baptize an Extraterrestrial?" So they're very much getting ready to feed us this lie and this nonsense about extraterrestrials seeding us from another planet, the Anunnaki and the Planet X and the Biru, all that crap. So that's what Yah is talking about when he says, "Some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of the devil." Right there. Evolutionary theory, these extraterrestrials, that's doctrines of the devil. These and because these extraterrestrials, they've always been here. They just go by different names now. We knew them in the past as fallen angels, the Watchers, the Nephilim, all that. And now they're going by a new name called aliens, extraterrestrials, ETs. So we're going to have to put on that strong shield of faith and really dive in on this word to be prepared for the great deception that is coming. So now I'm going to skip over to 2 Timothy chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 3 and 4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust they shall heap to themselves teachers. But after their own lust they shall heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears. Itching ears meaning ready to hear lies and wanting to hear lies and things that are not the truth. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall turn unto fables. Like today, when you try to read someone the word, they're like, oh my God, here we go again. They don't want to hear it anymore. They want to stay in their sin so they can keep fornicating, so they can keep having, so they don't have to feel guilty about getting drunk, so they don't have to feel guilty about having multiple sex partners and all this stuff. So they don't have to feel guilty about killing people. So they don't have to feel guilty about cursing and lying and treating people any type of way. So they don't have to feel guilty about going after money and saying screw everything else, and not caring about how people feel, and don't care about if you're taking food out of another person's mouth when you can help a homeless person and stuff like that. So that's what Yah means when he says they shall turn their ears away from the truth and shall turn unto fables. Okay. Now also let's let's jump back to chapter 3 of 2 Timothy. And we're gonna start at verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. So Yah is already warning us. In the last days we're going to see some very crazy things. It's not going to be a time of peace and good and lovey-dovey. It's going to be perilous times, much distress. So we're going to continue on in verse 2. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers. People love saying like, oh, Yah's not real. People love saying, I don't believe in the Bible. People love saying that crap. And when he says proud, meaning full of pride, okay? Disobedient to parents. And we already know that is definitely taking effect. Isn't that funny how disobedient to parents is one of the things that Yah said we'll be seeing in the last days? Unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. There's a lot of people who hear me reading this stuff and trying to preach the right message and really don't like the fact that I'm bringing out all the sins that a lot of people are doing these days. People don't like that. They want to stay in their sin. That's what Yah is talking about, despisers of those that are good. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of Elohim. Now that word heady, we have to understand what that means. That word heady means a drunkard, people who like to drink all the time. Look that word up, Heady, heady. That's what that word is. So, and we already know, we've seen that today, how people love to drink tons of liquor. People love taking Snapchats of them with beer bottles in their hands, hard liquor, hard wine, all this stuff. Lord the Kanya, the Kraken, Jack Daniels, just getting stupid drunk that they don't want to remember the night before and all that stuff. That's all here in the Word. Ain't that something? And also going to continue on in verse 5. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. So when he's talking about that, how people go to church on Sunday, which is not the Sabbath day, on how people go to church on Sunday to just feel good for that moment, and then right back on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, definitely Friday, Saturday, they turning back up again, hitting the club, but yes, Sunday coming back around, they want to pretend to be holy. That's what he's talking about, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Because if you really believed in the Word, and if you really studied it, you wouldn't be doing any of that stuff. None of us would be. So that's what he means when he says having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. And Yah says, from such people, turn away. He said, don't be dealing with these people. And he says, why? And in verse 6, he lets us know as well. It's like why we should also be turning away from these people. In verse 6, for of this sort they are which creep into houses and lead captive silly women, laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts. So he's saying these same men are the ones that lie to women, and just to get in their pants, just to have sex with them, just to get something for them, rather than trying to get to know them, rather than trying to see if this is a quality woman that is worthy of being married. And Yah is calling these women silly women, because why? Women in today's time very much fall for the double-tongued man. And what do they want? They want the bad boys. They don't want the good guy. They don't want the guy who's going to treat them right. They want the bad boy who's exciting, who's not a goody two shoes. But Yah calls he's calling a lot of these women. He said these are silly women, fools, and they just get deceived by these double-tongued men. The same thing that happens over and over with women is the same thing that's going on with women right now. Is the same thing that the serpent, that Satan did to Eve. He told her lies, and she fell for it. Guys today telling women lies about how they love them, how they're not going to cheat on them, how they want to marry them, but yet they only saying those things just to get in their pants, just saying those things just to get something from them. Okay, it's that same lie that the serpent told Eve, that a lot of men today are telling women, and women are silly women, and they falling for it. Those same men who are boasters, blasphemers, doing all those sins that y'all listed. These are the same ones that lead silly women away with diverse lust. Okay? And we continue on in verse 7. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of truth. So that's talking about how, when I was talking about in chapter 4, how people today take themselves unto teachers with itching ears. That's what he talked about here in chapter 3 and verse 7. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of truth, meaning we get all of our college degrees, we graduate high school, but yet we never learn the real truth of Yah and what's going on. Because you have to remember, it's the government, it is our global elite who tells teachers, who tells schools what to teach kids. And you notice how we're always in school most of the day learning their lies and their fake history more than we're learning the word of Yah and all that, which is the truth, which is the only thing that's going to save us. Okay, and I'm going to skip down to verse 16 here. Because remember I talked about how there was over 100 books taken out the Bible. I talked a lot about that, and a lot of people don't want to believe those. Don't want to believe the other scriptures. They want to keep believing the fact that our global elite and our government writes it off as fiction. But listen to what Yah has to say about that in verse 16 here. He says, all scripture is given by inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Elohim may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. So Yah says all scripture. So anything that is given godly edifying, that is edifying God, that is trying to show the truth of Yah. He's saying you can use that for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. He says all scriptures that talk about Yah. So I don't want to hear that crap about how like, oh, these books were taken out the Bible and it's not true, because Yah says it right here in his own word. He says all scripture. And why do you think he's saying that? Because Yah knows that his word has been tampered with. He knows that. He's no fool. He knows that. Okay? So I'm going to go back down to verse 2 of chapter 4 in 2 Timothy. So this is what Yah wants us to do when you have the word of Yah right here. He wants you to, in verse 2, he says, preach the word. Be instant in seasons, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. So he's saying when you see someone wallowing in their sin, he says rebuke them. He says reprove. He says show yourself. When he says reprove, he's saying prove that my word is true. Yah wants you to come before him boldly. He wants you to ask him to show him. He wants you to ask him and show, and he wants you to ask him, and he wants you to see his truth. He wants you to ask him of these things. He wants you to be bold with the word, with his word. He's saying rebuke people. He's saying show yourself. He's saying show yourself proved unto God, unto Elohim. meaning prove the word of Yah. Go out and see if these things are true, which you can find all these things are true with just a little bit of with just a little bit of digging. And he says, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. So he's saying, use all the doctrines to prove my works that is true. Because Yah is the same man he was at the beginning of time, and he's the same man that he will be at the end of time. You need to kind of rip out that idea of New Testament, Old Testament, because the only thing Yahusha did was just give more clarification on the Torah, on Moses' word, okay? That's the only thing he did, was give more clarification and add more commandments to it. He didn't say screw the Torah. He just clarified it, okay? And gave a better understanding. All right, and so we have to be bold with the word. You have to be bold. You can't be fearing man. Man can't do nothing to you. No one can do anything to you. I'm not afraid to speak the truth. It is what it is. You're either going to be on this train or you're going to be on the train to the pits of hell. That's as simple as that. So now, I'm going to go over to Matthew chapter 10 and verse 32. And we're going to see how important how important it is to rebuke people, how important it is to prove the word to yourself and prove it to other people, how important it is to study the scriptures, okay? And mainly about the talking about the truth of Yah, okay? So we're going to go to Matthew chapter 10, and we're going to start at verse 32. It says, whoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. But whoever shall deny me before men, him I will also deny before my Father which is in heaven. Now that is very powerful, y'all. So this is Yahushua talking to the disciples. He ain't playing. He's saying, if you confess me before men and you spill my truth before men, he says, I will testify for you in front of my Father. Meaning Yahushua will be on your side, the one the world calls JC, which we learned is not by any means the right name or the proper image. He says, I will help you. And he says, I will confess and talk on your behalf in front of my Father if you prove me to be real. If you go out and talk and speak the word to the people and rebuke people and help people come to the truth. So you already know I'm going to be doing that, because I'm not trying to go to hell. You shouldn't be trying to go to hell either. I'm not doing that crap. I'm not going there. I want to be in the kingdom of heaven. So of course I'm going to come and try to bring the word to you and let Yah speak through me so that you can gain this knowledge, so you can gain salvation, so I can gain salvation, so we can all get closer to Yah. I'll read that again. Whoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. But whoever shall deny me, meaning if you don't believe in Yah, if you deny him, he says, if you deny him, you don't want to do that. He says, but whoever shall deny me before men, him also I shall deny before my Father which is in heaven. And you already know if you get denied, you're going to hell. So why would you deny the Father? You better get to professing and starting to learn and try to start learning this truth here. Because hell ain't no game to play with. Yah is not anyone to mess with. And I'm going to read this next verse to you, which is very important. So Yahushua also continues on in verse 34. He says, think not, this is very important, think not that I am come to send peace on the earth. Wow. He says, think not that I come to send peace on the earth. I came not to send peace. Are you hearing that? Yahushua is talking to his disciples, and he says, I have come not to send peace. He said, don't think I'm coming to send peace, because you can clearly see we a nation of people and the whole world, we don't deserve peace. Look at the craziness that's going on. Come on now. Come on now. He says, think not that I am come to send peace. He said, I came not to send peace, but a sword. Oof. He said he's coming to wreak havoc. He's coming to lay down the sinners. He's coming to send these sinners to hell. He's coming to bring his right. He's coming to take the righteousness, the righteous people, out of this land of sin and bring them to the kingdom of heaven. He's coming to bring salvation to those people keeping his commandments. And he's coming to kill the sinners. He ain't playing no games. He said, but a sword I come with. He said, I'll read that again. Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. And also the sword is Yah's word. If you know that about the in Ephesians chapter 6, the word is also Yah's sword, okay? He's coming to use his sword to bring havoc on this world, okay? So I just wanted to start us off with that, and I know this ran a little long, but we need to understand why Yah is coming to do what he's come to do. And in Isaiah 45, verse 5 and 7, Yah says, I created light and darkness. I create peace and evil. I, Yah, do all these things. So you need to think about that. He creates peace and evil. He said it himself, I, Yah, do all these things. So how do you think he's working in your life right now if you're not abiding in the words of Yah? How do you think he's working in your life? He's sending you deception. He's letting you live in your sin. So when that day comes, you will be one of the people Yah destroys. You need to think long and hard about that. He says, I create light and darkness. I make peace and evil. I, Yah, do all these things, okay? So that is very, very important. And actually, I think I'm going to make this into 2 videos. So I'm going to end this video and I'll start the next one.